Hello everyone, my name is Phillipe Galinier and I'm a freelance translator from English into French. I'd like to thank the organizers of today's event for inviting me, especially Phillipe for the support she's given me. I have recently graduated from an MA in bilingual translation in this very place, so I'm a junior translator, and I'm here to tell you about the really early stages of establishing yourself as a translator, a freelance translator. So I'll go over a little bit of background about myself, and then I'll tell you about what I'm currently doing as a freelance translator, and I'll explain what kind of systems and steps I've taken in order to develop my business and my career as a translator. I'll also give you a few pieces of advice that's coming from me, and I'll share a few of those with you without trying to be too prescriptive. And then I'll finally give you a few, I'll tell you about my goals for the future. And if there's time, I'll answer your questions. So, where do I come from professionally? As Stella was saying, I had a longish career as a French teacher in London for many years, in higher education first, and then I worked at the Foreign Office language school as a French trainer. And it's at the Foreign Office that I started developing a taste for translation, and whenever I'd have an interview with my line manager, I would say, hey, I'd like to do a little bit more translating in my work, but I was working in a language training department, and I wasn't working in the translation and interpreting services, which is a separate department within the FCO. So it was very difficult to make that transition from being a teacher to becoming a translator. But I developed a social and professional relationship with the translators at the Foreign Office, and every now and again they would give me some ad hoc translations to do. But I felt that I needed to be professionally qualified if I really wanted to be taken seriously as a translator, and if I wanted to stand out as well on the market as a translator. So in 2005, I embarked on my MA in translation, which I did part-time because I was working. And I graduated in 2008, so you see it's still fairly fresh. And then I left the Foreign Office and set myself up as a translator, working from home mainly. So it's not very surprising, but the FCO is currently my main client. And the advantage of having been a teacher there for a number of years was that it had given me an insight into political work, international relations, and also I had accumulated quite a lot of knowledge in terminology and vocabulary that is used, but also I accumulated knowledge of the type of text that are dealt with in international organizations, such as memoranda of letters of requests, for example, notes before meetings, that sort of thing. So my areas of specialism are global issues, development. I do a lot of work via the FCO for the Department for International Development, trade and conflict, and also some criminal law related material. I have other clients too, some private clients, and I have done a little bit of work for translation agencies, and I'm looking to develop that area as well. Oh, and I'm also a translation teacher on a part-time basis at UCL at undergraduate level, which I started doing this year. One of the first steps I took was obviously to brush up my CV, design a nice covering letter and updating my CV. I update my CV practically every 2 months because in the early stages, every little bit of experience that you can gain is relevant and useful, and you've got to make it clear to your potential client that what you've done. I advise you as well to target your client, so to have a slightly different CV and a slightly different covering letter tailored to who you're writing to. I became an associate member of the ITI, the Institute of Translation and Interpreting, and I also had to start thinking business because I'd been an employee in a paid employment for many years, and I was used to having money coming into my bank account regularly and having paid holiday and so on, and things were very, very different. So you need to start running your own business, setting up an income and expenditure account. I hired the service of an accountant, which made me feel very grown up. And I set up my office space as well. It's very, very important if you're working from home as a freelance translator to make a clear separation between your private home space and your workspace, to have a dedicated office area that's suitable. I also had to assess what kind of technological support and equipment I had at home, and soon realized that I had to upgrade my computer, my printer, and take an interest in relevant software for translators. I attended as many professional events as I could, as you are doing today, for example. I took a professional indemnity insurance via the ITI. I joined other professional bodies, and I also worked on rebranding myself as a translator. So if, like me, you are thinking of changing career and you're making a career change, it's one of the hardest things is possibly to change your professional identity and to present yourself to new professional clients as a new corporate identity, if you like. So when I'm not busy translating, I'm working on marketing myself and branding and presenting myself under a new brand, if you like. If you're working from home, if you're an independent worker, I guess you need certain qualities. You need to be very enthusiastic. You need to bounce back easily from little setbacks that inevitably come up. You need to be very patient because at this stage you are. I use the analogy of sowing seeds and growing your garden. You're not going to have a beautiful, mature garden overnight. It takes some time, and a lot of steps you're taking early on, like sending your CVs to translation agencies, are not going to bring fruit straight away. So you need to be doing things all the time, but they're not going to pay off straight away necessarily. You need to be very motivated, very self-disciplined as well. There is no one telling you what to do. There's no one reminding you of various deadlines for delivering a job. You are your own boss and you're responsible. You have to be comfortable working from home and working in isolation in a way, although these days with the various professional networks that you can enjoy online, it doesn't feel as lonely as a lot of people think, being a translator at home. You have to have very good communication skills, and I'm thinking in particular having very good telephone manners, but also think about your email manners and being very professional. And something perhaps I also underestimated when I started as a translator is you've got to have very good, not necessarily to develop, but very good IT skills, and I'm looking also to grow those. As my previous speaker was saying, I'm deriving a lot of pleasure from my job. I really enjoy my new career. I'm very enthusiastic about it. Partly, as Paolo said, because it gives me a lot of flexibility. I quite like, there is never a very long routine. There is sometimes if you're working on a large piece of work, but it changes all the time. Sometimes I'm really busy and it's very full on, and sometimes it's very quiet, and then I can go and catch up with an exhibition or catch up with my administration and so on. I learn a lot from the text I translate. I feel very privileged that I'm working on political material and global issues that I am personally interested in. And I'm learning a lot all the time. Like, I've learned so much about the Democratic Republic of Congo lately, and mining and so on, and it's interesting. I feel very proud of what I'm doing as well, in a way that maybe as an employee I never felt. I enjoy producing a new piece of work, a new text, and I get a lot of pleasure from that. I like the idea of providing a professional service that is appreciated. Of course, when you're a freelance translator, you are running your own business, so you will not always be doing translation. You've got to think about all sorts of more or less regular activities you've got to be involved with in general admin, keeping your accounts up to date and always be ready for the next tax return. You need to invest in the business. Something again that struck me was that you have to invest quite a lot in the early stages, whether through memberships to professional bodies or professional development events, upgrading your IT equipment, that sort of thing. You need to market yourself, as I mentioned before. You need to keep up with current issues and new developments in the profession as well, and that's also time you're taking off for the business. And something I'm not very good at, but I'm working on it. You have to maintain your glossaries because it really helps. It's easier than when you have to look at different pieces of paper to find that I've translated this segment before. Where is it? So it's something to do on a quiet, rainy day. As I said, I've joined two professional organizations, the Institute of Translation and Interpreting, the ITI, and the Chartered Institute of Linguists. The ITI, I joined the ITI last year as an associate member, and it has made an enormous difference to my career. For one thing, I feel like I'm part of a community of translators. I feel like I'm more professional. I've kind of arrived in a sense. It's a very friendly environment of experienced translators who are, through the online networks, are always available to answer all your questions, whether they are about terminology, about something you're stumbling on in a translation, or whether they're about whether a translation agency is reputable because you've been offered work from an agency you don't know about. They issue a publication called the Bulletin, which is full of useful articles, and that's one way of keeping in touch with developments. They offer a very interesting professional indemnity insurance, which is the one I joined, and it's useful to know that you are covered in case there's a litigation or someone is querying or want to sue you for your work. It's never happened so far, thank God. On the website of the ITI, there's a members area which is also full of useful documents. For example, the general terms of condition for contracts, the do's and don'ts for translators and interpreters, the code of conduct, basically. The other organization I joined is the Chartered Institute of Linguists. The main difference with the ITI is that while the ITI is really the professional body in the UK for translators and interpreters, the remit of the Institute of Linguists is wider. So it is for linguists, people working in applied linguistics. And because I was a teacher in my previous career, I was able to be admitted as a full member straight away, whereas I have to wait a bit longer to become a full MITI. The Chartered Institute of Linguists have their own database of translators and linguists online, so that could be a way of promoting yourself and getting work. They have a publication called The Linguist. They also organized CPD events. And they also have an online, different networks. So because they're a broader organization, if you're a translator, you might want to join their network of translators. If you are an interpreter, you would join their network of interpreters, and so on. My advice, based on my own experience, for anyone who is thinking of starting as a freelance translator, would be to think about having alternative sources of income in the early days. Because let's face it, you're not going to turn over a lot of money in the first year. You're starting a business, so it will take time before you start really earning a satisfactory livelihood from your work. You need to get up and go and have a lot of drive as well. You need to reach out to colleagues, peer, potential clients as well. You need to work on your professional self-image. That ties in with marketing yourself. So you need to think about what kind of image I want to give about my own business identity. Who am I? And I'll give you a very practical example, because it covers a lot of aspects. It covers your stationery, that your CV, your website, if you're thinking of developing your own website. But I'll take the example of the email, for example. One thing I did very early on was to separate my social emails from my professional emails. It's so that in the same way that I have a dedicated working space at home, I needed to separate my social emails from my work emails. And I actually now have 4 or 5 different email accounts. But if your email address looks like this, it's not going to look very professional. You need to show the world and the potential clients that you are a serious player, that you are a business, that you are not a person who just does some translations from home every now and again. And you need to show a certain sense of permanence in your status. So you might want to think about developing, building your own website and buying a domain so that you have a more professional looking email address, one of those. This is my own business email address. Okay, so maybe not Fluffy Bunny. And finally, you need to be open, because you may have this ambition to translate in a particular area, but it may not happen overnight. It may not happen straight away. You may be open. You have to be open to whatever comes your way, really. So in a way, you have to be realistic. You have to be realistic on 2 counts: on the type of work that you are prepared to, that you feel able to take on. You have to be honest with the clients. You want to give yourself do yourself a favor if you accept a job and you fail to meet the deadline for delivery because it was just too hard or too long to translate. So you have to be realistic. You also have to be realistic on the other end about what work is available to you. So that means you also may need to consider related services, not just translation, but proofreading, editing, revising, voiceovers, transcriptions. They sometimes a little bit boring, but if you are starting in a new career, they're all jobs that come up and that will give you some experience. You need to keep a record of word count. Well, I can think of at least two reasons. A lot of translation agencies ask you, as one of their freelance translators, may ask you how many words you have translated so far. So it gives them an indication of how much experience you've got. The word count, i.e., how many words you've translated in your job. So far. It's also one of the criteria to become a full member of the ITI. I think you need to have translated something like 200,000 words. I may be corrected if I'm wrong. And finally, you need to enjoy your work-life balance. It can be really busy and mad at times, and then 2 weeks may go by when it's very quiet. You need to be able to handle both aspects, and you need to be fit and in good health and look after yourself, because without that you can't perform really. My goals for the future are to develop the business. That means probably to find new reliable ongoing customers, because you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. I'm going to have my website launch soon, hopefully, perhaps in a couple of months' time, so that's very exciting. I'm planning to attend more professional development events, and over time explore new areas of specialism. I'm personally interested in wildlife management and biodiversity issues. But how do you break into these areas when you don't have, for example, a zoology degree? So this is something I will have to work on, but it will come. It will hopefully arrive soon. And as I mentioned before, I'm planning to become a full ITI member. This is my brand image, stylus translation, putting French into context. So that's the name and logo under which I trade. And there will be a website soon. There is a presence on the internet already, but it's just a holding page, just one page. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening to me. I don't know whether there's time for questions. Is anybody wanting to ask a question? Yes? Oh, okay.
Hello. Just a general question, really. Many years ago, I did work in certain fields, and if you're trying to market yourself from experience that you've gained in the past to potential clients, and with the whole, marketing website issues, how important are, is accuracy, and how much can that kind of be, generalised? And what I'm trying to say is,
Yes, I understand what you're saying. I'd say it's crucial. It's if you've got, based on my experience, you can't just start a new career from scratch. There will always be a link with what you've done before. So it's worth cultivating a good, positive professional relationship with past employers, because you never know what form your translation work is going to take, where it's going to come from. If you have a degree, for example, in a particular field, it's something that you should, how can I put it? You should put forward as something that sets you apart from the competition. I'll give you an example. On the course that I was teaching at UCL this year, I had one student who was a chemistry student, and he wants to do an MA in translation and interpreting. And I said to him, you are in a wonderful, very, very strong position, because you will have this background as a scientist, as a chemist, which I'm sure will come in very handy when you start as a translator. And it's what I did as well, in a way. I was a teacher at the Foreign Office, and hey, I'm still, in a way, working with them. So I hope that answers your question. There was a question from the person in the front, maybe?
Just wondering if you set up your own company or if you're working as a freelancer, because you were showing us the slide about
yes. Well, I don't mean to give the impression that I'm employing 10 people. I am my own company. My status is a sole trader. So
do you have to do that, or can you just be a freelancer?
You don't have to do that. But what I would say is you need to give a professional image to your potential customers. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to invest lots of money into a logo and having people marketing yourself. But on the other end, you don't want to give the impression that you're just a casual translator. You want to give a serious image of yourself, and you also want to stand out. Because depending on your language combination, the competition out there is going to be very fierce. So you need to, there are more than two ways, but I can think of two ways of doing that. One is, as I was saying earlier, to emphasize your areas of specialism. And the other thing is via marketing yourself, having it's a bit cosmetic, but having a seductive logo and image will make a very positive impact to the industry.